the gang that ruled London's underworld, the rise and fall of the Addams family. Today we're diving into one of the darkest chapters in British crime history, a tale of power, greed, betrayal, and fear. The Addams family, known as the British Mafia, ran London's criminal underworld with an iron fist for decades. Their operations spanned everything from drug trafficking to contract killings, amassing untold wealth while instilling fear across the city. But as with every empire, their reign would eventually fall, undone by arrogance, betrayal, and the tireless pursuit of justice. This is the story of the Addams family, their rise to power, and their ultimate downfall. The origins of the Addams family. The Addams family's story begins in the gritty streets of Islington, North London during the 1970s. The three brothers at the center of the empire, Terry, Patrick, and Tommy Addams, grew up in poverty. Life in post-war London was bleak, and opportunities for young men from working-class backgrounds were scarce. But the Addams brothers were not content with simply getting by. Even as teenagers, they displayed an entrepreneurial spirit, albeit one rooted in crime. Terry, the eldest, emerged as the mastermind early on, demonstrating a knack for strategy and manipulation. Patrick, the middle brother, was meticulous and efficient, handling logistics for their growing operations. Meanwhile, Tommy, the youngest, was the enforcer, ruthless and unflinching in his use of violence to keep everyone in line. Initially, the brothers dabbled in petty crime, shoplifting, pickpocketing, and small-scale burglaries. However, their ambitions soon grew. By the late 1970s, they'd moved into armed robberies, establishing a reputation for planning and precision. These weren't reckless criminals. They were calculated and efficient, always staying one step ahead of the law. Expansion and ruthless tactics. The 1980s marked a turning point for the Addams family. Realizing the potential profits in the drug trade, they forged partnerships with Moroccan hashish suppliers and Colombian cocaine cartels. These connections allowed them to dominate London's drug market, supplying dealers across the city with high-quality narcotics. But their empire extended far beyond drugs. The Addams family diversified into extortion, money laundering, and contract killings. They built a network of legitimate businesses, from pubs to construction companies, to launder their illicit profits. One of their most infamous tactics was targeting rival gang members and anyone who dared to challenge their authority. One chilling example is the disappearance of Gilbert Winter in 1998. Winter, a known enforcer and associate of the gang, was suspected of betraying them. He vanished without a trace, and his body has never been found. Many believe the Addams family ordered his execution and ensured his remains would never surface. This wasn't just an act of retribution, it was a message to anyone who considered crossing them. Violence became their calling card. Rivals feared them, and even police officers admitted that the Addams family was unlike any other gang they had encountered. The Untouchables. By the 1990s, the Addams family had earned their reputation as the British Mafia. Their operations were so well organized that law enforcement struggled to infiltrate them. Unlike flashier gangsters, the Addams brothers avoided ostentatious displays of wealth. Instead, they laundered their millions through offshore accounts and shell companies. Terry Addams, the eldest, was the mastermind behind it all. Described by associates as both charming and calculating, Terry kept a low profile while pulling the strings. Patrick, the middle brother, managed the logistics, ensuring shipments of drugs and weapons flowed seamlessly. Tommy, the enforcer, ruled the streets with an iron fist, ensuring no one dared challenge their power. Even Scotland Yard admitted that the family's tight-knit structure made them almost impossible to penetrate. They worked exclusively with trusted associates, avoiding outsiders who might turn informant. For years, they operated with impunity, outsmarting law enforcement at every turn. Cracks begin to show. The 1990s brought a new challenge for the Addams family, the advent of advanced surveillance technology. Law enforcement developed wiretapping capabilities and began using undercover operatives to gather evidence. For the first time, cracks in the gang's invincible image began to appear. Patrick Addams faced legal trouble in 1998 after being implicated in a brutal assault on a nightclub bouncer. Although he avoided conviction, the case drew media attention and tarnished the gang's reputation. Meanwhile, Terry Adams made a critical mistake. In an uncharacteristic display of arrogance, he purchased a $2 million mansion in Mill Hill, North London. The extravagant property, complete with luxury furnishings and a personal security team, drew the attention of journalists and investigators. For a gang that thrived in the shadows, this sudden spotlight was disastrous. The downfall. The beginning of the end came in 2003, when Terry Adams was arrested for money laundering. Investigators had uncovered a complex network of shell companies and offshore accounts that the gang used to launder millions. During his trial, prosecutors painted a damning picture of the Adams family's operations, exposing their crimes to the public. Terry was sentenced to 7 years in prison, a devastating blow to the gang. Without his leadership, their empire began to crumble. Patrick and Tommy were arrested in subsequent years for drug trafficking and possession of illegal firearms. Law enforcement dismantled their network piece by piece, seizing millions in assets and arresting key associates. By the late 2000s, the Adams family was no longer a dominant force in London's underworld. Their empire, once feared and revered, had been reduced to rubble. The legacy. Today, the Adams family serves as a cautionary tale. Terry Adams, now in his late 60s, lives under strict financial restrictions and constant surveillance. Patrick and Tommy have served their sentences and faded into obscurity. But their legacy endures. The Adams family is still whispered about in London's underworld, a symbol of power, greed, and the ultimate price of ambition. Their story is a reminder that no one is truly untouchable, no matter how powerful they may seem. What do you think of the Adams family's reign? Could they have avoided their downfall, or was it inevitable? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to Dark Britain Files for more gripping true crime stories.